Hey, hi, hello, and welcome to the show. Hi, hello, and welcome to the show. My name is DDare Bionic, if you did not know, and I am black with a very special review video. I don't know why it's special. It's the same old shit I always do. All right, so I have, and am probably one of the last people to review the series Wednesday on Netflix. If you haven't watched it, please go watch it. I actually, spoiler alert, really, really loved it. It was very good. I had my skepticisms about it, but I pushed all of that aside while I was watching it, and I really enjoyed the story that they told and the new life that they breathed into Wednesday. So I'm gonna review the entire series. I'm gonna hit a few points. I'm not like gonna go episode by episode. I'm just gonna review the whole thing as the season that it is. And I'm gonna give you my thoughts and opinions on how the story played out, on what they did with Wednesday, on the characters and all that good stuff. And yeah, it's gonna be a sickening review as always. So if you like these types of videos, my movie reviews, or any of my other content, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you get a notification every single time I post, honey. It's 2 times a week. And it really helps. It really supports the channel. So thank y'all for doing that. And let's get into the review. Okay, so while I wait for my computer to start up, I will just give you kind of the backbone, the story. This is your spoiler alert warning. I will not be holding back. I will not be withholding any exculpatory evidence. I will be getting to the bare bones of everything. So let's get into it. So to me, Wednesday, this version of Wednesday is a version of Wednesday that we have not seen before. Sorry, I'm just pulling up my IMDb so that I can have everybody's name. Like I was saying before, this is a version of Wednesday we've never seen before. She's never been, this teenage kind of rebel. She's always been a rebel. She's always been her own woman, but she's never been this way before. And I think that was an interesting take for Tim Burton and, the creators of the series to take. Also, shout out to Tim Burton for having some diversity in his show.
And that's shame.
And that was cool to see. Brown people at Nevermore Academy. It seems we do fit the aesthetic. Jenna Ortega is our titular character. She is our new Wednesday Addams, and let me tell you, she had big little shoes to fill after following the one and only Christina Ricci, who is people my age. I'm almost 30, and even people younger than me, like people in that generation, we all know that as Wednesday Addams. Like that is our Wednesday Addams, Christina Ricci. And so she had some big shoes to fill and a lot of fans to impress with her version of Wednesday Addams. And I think she did a phenomenal job. I think she was single-handedly the best thing about the series, which is great when you are the title character of the series. You want to be the best thing. You want to be the thing that stands out the most. And her performance as Wednesday had so many nuances, so many little things, so many things that you don't expect from Wednesday Addams, the character, but makes sense for this version of Wednesday. We also have our Wednesday, Christina Ricci, turning as the main villain of the story, which I thought was a really cool plot point also. She is this normie. So I'm jumping ahead of myself. So the whole story takes place at Nevermore Academy. It's this academy for outsiders, for kids who are, not human or have special abilities or just don't fit in with the rest of normal society. It's in this town of Jericho, and it's run by, what's her name? Gwendolyn Christie. Phenomenal. Loved her in, what's that show? Sandman. Maybe I should have done the Sandman review too. Maybe I'll double back and do that. Because Sandman was really good and it just recently got renewed for a 2nd season. I'm very excited to see. She plays Lucifer in Sandman, which I thought was freaking incredible. But she is equally as intimidating and beautiful and powerful in this show. And also very conniving, very, very double-handed, very, very double agent. Is that what I was trying to say? I don't remember what I was even trying to say. But But yeah, so she is kind of the head mistress of the Nevermore Academy. She plays Principal Larissa Weems, who is important throughout the story. She's a shapeshifter, and you know, she does all kinds of crazy things. We have Christina Ricci returning as Marilyn Thornhill. She is a normie teacher at the Nevermore Academy who, like I said before, turns out to be the villain in the end. You have, who else do we have that is of extreme importance? Obviously, we have the one and only Catherine Zeta-Jones as Morticia, who plays a not as big a role, obviously, in the show, but has an episode where she kind of has her moment to shine. And then we have Luis Guzman as Gomez and Isaac Ordonez as Pugsley, who is, you know, obviously Wednesday's little brother, who she is saving at the beginning of the show. She's saving him, and that's where you get that scene in the promos with the piranhas in the pool, and it's all cool. So she gets to Nevermore Academy after being expelled from something like her 8th school. Her parents are like, Morticia had gone there. She was like the star student. She was the Regina George of the Nevermore Academy. She was on all the teams. She won everything. She was beautiful and stunning and all this stuff. She was Morticia. And that's where Morticia and Gomez met. They're very excited for her to be there and for her to follow in the footsteps initially of Morticia, but then kind of realize down the line what I feel like a lot of parents either realize too late or are instrumental in that realization of your child has to kind of take their own path, no matter what you want them to do, no matter what you see for them. You know, I'm certain my mom, when I was born, didn't see me wearing fake nails and eyeliner, but you know, my mom is my road dog and she runs with me. Like, she is my number one fan, and she was instrumental in me becoming the person who I am. So it's really cool to see them kind of incorporate that between Morticia and Wednesday, who kind of have this tumultuous relationship in the beginning, which ends up being a really beautiful relationship in the end that I hope we get to explore more in season 2. The story of the show is essentially this kid named Rowan, played by, hold one second, there's a lot of characters in the show and I'm not gonna get to everybody. Callum Ross, he essentially tries to kill Wednesday in the very first episode, or like one of the first episodes, because he's been given this vision of sorts, this telling of the future that his mom drew of Crackstone, who is like the progenitor of the town of Jericho, who is this like super conservative, like essentially alt-right, like horrid, wretched person who ends up being the big bad. But and Wednesday kind of battling it out in the courtyard of Nevermore, and everything's on fire, and he thinks she is going to bring hellfire onto them when actually she is supposed to be the one to save them, and she does. But so he ends up trying to kill her and is killed by this creature called a Hyde, which we find out several episodes later. But she's killed by this creature, and this creature is tormenting people in the woods, and it's killing all these people, collecting body parts, and it's weird. And Wednesday, throughout the series, is discovering who she is because she's been having these psychic visions and seeing the future and people getting attacked and people getting killed. She saw Rowan getting killed and was trying to save him. It's in a weird way a coming of age story without the over emotional, overly romantic, normal teenage coming of age story, which we love that. Like, Heartstopper is a beautiful coming of age story, and it's queer, and I love that, and it's beautiful and amazing and perfect. But it's nice to see that we can have a story that isn't about a romantic awakening or the whole thing is in pursuit of a boy or of a girl or of a significant other. It's all of her chasing, you know, the truth. She the whole time is trying to find the truth while also kind of throwing people under the bus and really putting people in danger. And being so black and white and so focused on her point that she doesn't really see the world around her in color. And I like to think towards the end she starts to see things in color, see things kind of, and people, mostly people, as more than just pawns or stops in the story. She actually sees them as companions along the journey, which you see progressively happen throughout the series. They do a really good job of building Wednesday as more than this emotionless, cold, dead girl. She warms up. So it's an 8-episode series. Like I said, it's on Netflix. Episode 1, she arrives at Nevermore. She meets all these people, all these things happen. Episode 2 is kind of when things start to really kick off, where she is, her and her roommate Enid are, or Enid is a werewolf who hasn't wolfed out yet, is what they call it, who hasn't made the transition to werewolf, like actually be able to turn into a wolf, which is another nice little B line or maybe even C line story that we follow throughout it. Episode 2, that happens. She goes through these different things that are kind of trials at Nevermore, like this race, this like triathlon type of thing where they have to, take a boat and paddle across the lake, and then there's no rules, so you can fucking slice up somebody's boat or you can sabotage in any way possible. And she goes and has a vision there, and that's when she first finds out about Crackstone and her neighbor, or not neighbor, her what is the word I'm looking for? Ancestor, Goody Adams, who was kind of the first Adams to have visions and be an outsider, and killed and sealed away Crackstone. So she has her first vision of her. And then in the 3rd episode, they go to Pilgrim World. We also have in the 4th episode a really funny scene. It's been going around the internet. It's to the song Goo Goo Muck in the show, but the internet has turned it into a Lady Gaga meme. And you know me, I stand the Queen Gaga. She is my girl. She is my queen. I literally just posted a video last week about a hoodie with her on it. And so it's to Bloody Mary and everybody's doing the Wednesday dance. And I thought that was so funny. It was such a, Jenna Ortega even did a little nod to the original Wednesday with the lean with it, rock with it a little moment. It was so good. Yeah, it was great. It was a fun episode in and of itself. And we kind of see more about the hide and what happened. But it even was more fun to see Wednesday cut loose. Side note, Jenna Ortega filmed that scene with COVID-19. She was waiting for a positive test. And as a young actor, you just kind of have to do it. As a performer, you just gotta go. When the time calls, you just gotta go and you gotta do it. And you can kind of see it works, honestly, for the character, because she was a little pale, a little tired looking, but she served it up. She killed it, and I applaud her for working while not feeling well, but also kind of being strong enough to be like, hey, I'm not feeling well. Should I do this? And they're like, do it. And she's like, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it the fucking best that I can. And absolutely killed it. So shout out to you, Jenna Ortega, for just being awesome. You're really good. You're a very talented young woman. And I am very excited to see where your career goes in the future. This dance scene, it's funny. It's a great little departure from kind of the monotony of figuring out who is the killer and what is happening and all that other stuff. And then we get to episode 5, where we kind of find some backstory about Gomez and Morticia and how this guy was killed, and it was actually Morticia that killed him and not Gomez, but Gomez took the blame, so Morticia didn't go to jail. And it was really the moment that brought Wednesday and Morticia together, which I thought was fabulous. This episode, I believe, is the first time we see Wednesday actually get emotional, like genuinely emotional. I feel like this episode, this fifth episode, is the first time we see Wednesday get emotional in the way of that Wednesday can. She has her moment at the end with Morticia. She's doing her best to, get her dad out of jail and prove that he's innocent. And she does while still following the plot of the story. It's not even like a weird beeline story. It all kind of curves back into the main point of the story. And I think that's a tell to the writing. They did a great job of branching these episodes outside of the main story, and then by the end, bringing them back into the driving force of the story. And then we have Uncle Fester showing up in episode 7. Episode 6 was good. They throw her a surprise birthday party. It doesn't really go as planned. I don't really remember episode 6 that well because it was a good episode, but it wasn't a memorable episode. I don't really recall what happens. In episode 7, we meet Uncle Fester for the first time, played by Fred Armisen, who is fabulous. We all know this. And it's a funny episode because he's helping her kind of figure out more of the story. He's the one that helps her figure out that the creature that's been killing people is a Hyde, and she is suspecting Xavier Thorpe, played by Percy Hines White, when in actuality it is Tyler, played by Hunter Dewin, who both of them do a fine job. I felt like the story with Xavier was kind of meh. It was between the two of them for me. It was between the two of them and Christina Ricci's character for me that were the Hyde. By episode 7, I was convinced that it was Tyler. No, I think by episode 7, I was back to thinking it was Xavier. And then by episode 8, and we find out it was Tyler, I was like, I fucking knew it. I knew that it was him because something about the character and how immediately he latched on to Wednesday and was like falling in love with her. Something about it just didn't feel right. Also, we find out that a Hyde is attached to a master, and that master is Christina Ricci. And I knew that from the beginning, I knew Christina Ricci was going to be involved in some way in the final plot of the story. I didn't know how, but the places she showed up, the time she showed up, and the fact that she was even in the show, I was like, they're not going to have Christina Ricci here and have her just be a character. She's going to have something important to do with the story. And she ended up being the person that brings Crackstone, which I don't think he shows up until the very, very last episode as the big, big bad, and shows up in the end to kind of purge the world of the normies, and he's summoned by Christina Ricci's character. In summation of everything, because there are a couple of plot lines that I am very, very obviously and openly leaving out because they felt super unnecessary. I think that's the only thing that bothered me about this series, is that there are a lot of things introduced that kind of made it seem like they were gunning for a season 2 before they proved that they were going to have a good season 1. And granted, it was a fantastic first season and a great way to get us, involved and invested in these characters. And I could see this going for maybe 1 or 2 more seasons, but not more than that, unless they do something next season that's going to be completely off the wall crazy. But there's like this side story with Bianca, I believe her name is. Yeah, Joyce Sunday, who plays Bianca. She's a siren. There's this weird side story with her and her mom that is literally in one episode, and then we never hear about it again. Like, not that I needed any conclusion on that, but maybe a little bit more backstory to what happened. And that's what I mean. Like, they kind of just introduced this thing and then threw it away as if they're like, okay, well, we'll talk about this more in season 2. Like, we're going to have a season 2, guaranteed. This storyline with Xavier, I mean, they needed a red herring, and he was an okay red herring, but he just, it just, I don't know. It was both believable and not believable. He was drawing the creature. He had all these drawings and all these like prophetic drawings of what was happening, but it didn't really feel as important or useful as a device as the red herring of Christina Ricci's character. Like, the fact that they pulled it all together with her being the master of the Hyde. I personally thought the master of the Hyde was Dr. Valerie Kinbot, who plays Ricky Lindham, who was played by Ricky Lindham, sorry. I thought that she might be the master of the Hyde, and then she gets killed by the Hyde. So I'm like, what the fuck? It's got to be Christina Ricci's character at that. Like, those were my kind of they did a good job of like drawing you away from the big bad and the reasons and the characters that were actually not good, but with things that were not necessarily as interesting at times. I do like following Emma Myers, who played Enid, as she, you know, grew toward wolfing out, and her wolfing out at the very perfect moment when this Hyde is about to attack Wednesday in the woods. Beautiful, excellently executed. I loved seeing the transformation. The transformation was super cool. I did feel that Hunter did not do as great a job as some of the other actors, as well as this kid Percy. I felt like they were kind of lackluster, and I think that may have been in the direction, because it kind of seems like they were directed to kind of act similarly to each other, where they both were just these kind of like dudes. I don't really know how else to describe them. There was not much else interesting about their characters, except for the fact that Tyler ended up being the big bad in the end. His dad, played by Sheriff Donovan, played by Jamie McShane, great. He was really good. He also was kind of just like an asshole. There's like a weird maybe backstory about like his mom. Tyler's mom obviously was a Hyde, and that's how they figure it all out. And I don't know. His character also seemed kind of inconsequential. Like he was the sheriff investigating everything, and he knew it was one of the. He just had to believe that it was one of the normies when in fact or one of the outsiders, outcasts. That's what they call them, outcasts. And it ended up being his son. But he didn't want to believe anything that Wednesday was saying because she was in Adams, and he had this whole vendetta against Gomez. And then when that vendetta is reconciled, he just apologizes and kind of carries on about like it's not a thing. They make it a thing, and then when the thing happens and they figure out that he was wrong, he just is like, oops. Like it just, I don't know, some things in the plot, some things in the story just felt kind of like, does that make sense? Thing gets attacked and almost killed, which child, I was so emotional. I was really, and that's another moment. That's another really great moment where Wednesday actually is emotional. She's crying, and you know, because Thing has been her companion this whole time. You know, Morticia and Gomez left him there to spy on her, but she found him, and he's been helping her figure out this mystery this whole time. And also, obviously, they have history. He's been around her whole life, and it was a really beautiful moment to see Fester revive Thing, and for her to get really truly emotional, because I feel like even if we hadn't had this growth and development of Wednesday as a character throughout the series, that would have been the pivotal moment where she would have had kind of a break. And even though we did have that growth happening every episode where something would happen where she would kind of rethink her thought, her mindset, that being the thing that kind of snaps that was really beautifully executed, and I thought that was done expertly by the cast, crew, and directors and everybody. Also, at the end of the show, after Enid wolfs out, she's looking for Wednesday. They come to meet each other in the end, and they hug. And Enid hugs Wednesday, and at first she doesn't hug her, but then she hugs her back, and it was like, what a beautiful way to cap this story. What a beautiful way to kind of show that this isn't the Wednesday that we all knew. This is a different Wednesday, and she's a lot older than the Wednesday that we grew up with, and B, a completely different person. And I think a lot of people were upset about the fact that, or I just read a lot online that people were upset about the fact that they gave Wednesday emotions. And to that I say, fuck off. Because the show in itself is good, and Jenna Ortega is fabulous. I cannot say enough how spectacular she is as Wednesday. I think she lived up to Christina Ricci's Wednesday. Did she surpass? No. And that's on nostalgia, and that's on Christina Ricci. Like, respect to the queen. She did not surpass Christina Ricci, but she did live up to that Wednesday, and I think she will be forever cemented as an iconic version of Wednesday. Let me make sure I get this right. So in episode 5, we find out that Morticia killed this guy. This guy's sister, so allegedly, according to the sheriff, his whole family offed themselves. The sister actually did not, and that sister is played by Christina Ricci. And she has come back to Jericho to take revenge on the outcasts that killed her brother, even though technically it was her dad who killed her brother because he gave her a bottle of nightshade to go and poison all the outcasts. The nightshade broke in his chest and went into his bloodstream, and he died of nightshade poisoning, and not actually by Morticia stabbing him through the chest. Laurel Gates. Oh my God. I could not remember that. So it turns out that Christina Ricci's character is actually Laurel Gates, the brother or the sister of, I don't remember his name, but his last name was Gates. And she has come back to take revenge on the outcasts. She does this by unlocking the hide in Tyler, whose mother was a hide, and putting him under her control. He's killing people, he's taking these body parts, and she essentially Frankensteins. And it's a funny little Easter egg, or not Easter egg, but a fun little like foreshadowing moment. After Wednesday gets expelled, she is Thornhill comes in to talk to her, and she gives her this book, Frankenstein, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and it's kind of a nod to the fact that she has to use all these different body parts to Frankenstein Crackstone back together. So Joseph Crackstone comes back. He has magical powers. This is another kind of thing that was weird to me. He has magical powers, but he's mad at the people who have magical powers. I'm confused. Are you mad, or are you actually like a wizard? Like, are you actually magical? Because it's giving confusion. But he's got magical powers. He's going through the school. He's setting things on fire. He is whooshing people around with his stick. He ends up getting killed by Wednesday with the help of Bianca. And then they arrest Christina Ricci's character, or kill her. It's kind of ambiguous what happens to her. And they also lock up Tyler, who got beat up bad by Enid in her wolf form, which was really cool. And that's kind of where it ends. And they kind of close the school for the semester because the principal, Weems, was killed by Christina Ricci's character. So they close the school for the semester to kind of figure things out. And that's where the story ends. I know I kind of jumped around a lot with what I was talking about, but let's get into my final thoughts. The IMDb rating on this show is an 8.4 out of 10. That's the IMDb rating. And I would have to say I agree with that. I think the acting from Jenna Ortega, from Gwendolyn Christie, and many of the other characters, Christina Ricci, this kid who played Eugene, Mustafa was really great. And a bunch of the other characters were really, really good. I did feel like Xavier and Tyler were kind of the same and just kind of being middle ground, not really exciting, but not really just like bleh. There was nobody in the show that was straight up horrible at all. There was nobody that was terrible, but there were some that were leaps and bounds above the others. And I think that's just because they didn't have much to do. The use of characters is the thing that kind of brings it down a point, because we see a lot of Wednesday, we see a lot of Enid, we see a lot of Principal Weems, Tyler, Xavier, and Thing, obviously. But the other characters we see a lot of don't necessarily add or subtract anything from the story. Acting phenomenal. Writing was really good at points. There were some points where it did feel a little like meh, like, okay, let's move past this. The style and setting was very Burton-esque. It was very high saturation, high contrast color story, which I thought was beautiful. I love Tim Burton, his films at least. He himself is questionable at this moment, but I love Tim Burton's films. And his directing style, I think it's fabulous. The costuming, I thought it was really cool that they gave Wednesday her own special costume because she was not going to wear purple. I thought Catherine Zeta-Jones was an interesting yet good choice for Morticia. And I think all in all, it was a really great story, a really great retelling of Wednesday and the Addams family as a whole. And I'm excited to see what they do with the second season. I think it's going to be really cool. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I talked in circles around this show, and I hope you can figure out what the hell I'm trying to say, because editing Darius, I apologize to you because I didn't follow any kind of linear path at all. I'm so sorry to you.
Sorry to this man.
That's it for this video. If you tell me in the comments down below what you thought of Wednesday, if you've watched it yet. If you haven't, definitely go check it out. I know I've spoiled a bunch of what happens in this video, but I really left a lot kind of on the table. But that's all. I will see you in the next video. Make sure to follow me on all my social medias. They are all linked down below in the description box. While you're down there, like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you get a notification every single time I post a video. That is twice a week, and I guarantee it, baby. And make sure you shop Lunar Tights hair while you're clicking my links and following all of my social medias. You'll get a little bit of money off. I believe it's 15% that you'll get off of your purchase if you use my link and my code. I love you all, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.